Welcome to this week's episode of the Savvy Flipper Show. I'm your host and business strategist, Clara Rose, and this is Larry Vanderhoof, our resident expert and construction manager.
How's everybody today? Today, we need to remember being a savvy flipper is all about flipping by the numbers, whether it's do-it-yourself property inspection, accurately estimating renovations, or effective property management. It all means that if you're not flipping by the numbers, you're leaving money on the table.
Yes, indeed. Today's episode, what is today's episode? Today's episode is the truth about short-term rentals.
The goods and the bads and the uglies.
The good, the bad, and the ugly, short-term rentals. Now, as an investor, a real estate investor, we are often just talking about the flips.
Correct.
So, but there's more to being a real estate investor than just flipping, even though we mostly talk about flipping here on the show.
Right, and short-term rentals are actually a fairly exciting aspect to the real estate investing. The opportunities there are huge if they're done properly, if they're done right, and if they're done in the right locations.
Locations. Yeah, we'll be talking about that for sure. So let's talk about flipping versus buy and hold, buy and flip, buy and sell.
Yep, short-term rentals versus flipping is really, it boils down to one, you're purchasing and you're reselling, where the short-term rental is you're purchasing and you're hanging on to it to get that continual ongoing flow of income each and every month.
Right, so that really boils down to equity.
Right. I mean, you not only are you making a hefty chunk of change every month from that property, but you also still own it. So the property continues to grow in equity, and so it's really kind of a win-win situation as long as it's done correctly.
As long as it's done right, yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so a long-term rental and a short-term rental, those are all buy and holds, and a flip is a buy and sell.
Correct.
Or a wholesale where you're not even technically becoming the owner,
right,
but maybe for just a moment or two, and then you've wholesaled it on to somebody else. Okay, well, the real benefit to the rentals, whether it's short-term rentals or regular rentals, standard rentals, is that some people call it the equity grab, but it's really about building up that long-term equity in the rental and then positive cash flow, of course.
Right. The positive cash flow is really the king when it comes to buy and holds. And the difference in the money that we're talking about between long-term rentals and short-term rentals really boils down to, with the short-term rental, you can actually create as much in a week as you can a long-term rental in a month. So if you've got a rental house and you're renting it out for $1,500, a short-term rental in the right location can bring up, it can bring upwards to 3-4 times that. So you could look at it pretty. Now there are other things that come into play, obviously, between the two, some differences. So location is one of them.
Yes, location.
Yeah.
We hear that all the time when we're talking about real estate just in general, or not even just real estate. The business that you open, commercial spaces, all that, location dependent. Having a good location is important, but super important with a short-term rental, because now you have to look at why would people come and stay in this particular location? Right? So if we're in Florida, so pretty much anywhere in Florida is good for, unless you're too far in the Tules.
Right.
But if you're 30 minutes from something exciting and cool, like a beach or
everybody likes to come to the sunshine.
Everyone likes, that's true. If you don't have a destination location in your vicinity, you can create a destination.
You can. There are a lot of ways of doing that. You could live in the Pacific Northwest, or you could live in northern Georgia or something like that, where you create a destination by owning a mountain cabin, for instance. Things like that. But the vast majority of your short-term rentals are going to be in places where people typically go to vacation anyway, and rather than renting a hotel at Marriott or
Right.
roadside inn or whatever the case may be, they have their very own place to rent for a few days and
Or a week
the
even.
privacy
Yeah.
or the week or however long they choose to stay there. So all of that just to say that if you are considering short-term rentals, be very particular with the area that you're looking to buy in. In our situation where we are, we're near Tampa, so just about any place around us, and as she mentioned, a lot of locations in Florida, most people don't mind driving 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour to Disney World or the beach or what have you. So our choosing down here for short-term rentals is pretty significant. Other places, maybe not so much. So just make sure that where you're purchasing is
Just makes smart.
yeah, financially viable for you.
Sure. And interestingly enough, the entire way that we ended up moving to Florida from the Pacific Northwest now it's been a lot of years, in 2009, was we stayed in a short-term rental.
Yes, we did. Indeed.
Right?
Yep.
So it was just this cute little bungalow kind of place in an enclosed compound yard with amazing, amazing vegetation and a private pool and jacuzzi.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh yeah, we're moving to Florida. I could live like this, right?
Yeah.
All started with us renting for a week, and we rented it because it was, for the price of us staying there for a week, was so much better than us staying in a hotel for an entire week. And you had all these wonderful amenities that were all private to you. So
But
we're fans.
Yeah, but don't get fooled into thinking that places like, Florida and in California, stuff like that's the only places that are going to have short-term rentals. We've traveled all over the country. We've stayed at many, many, many timeshare resorts and things across the country during our stint as reserve analysts. And I can tell you there are a lot of places that short-term rentals would work really nicely. All up and down the East Coast, from South Carolina, North Carolina, on up into
So many places.
Yeah.
So many
So,
places.
yeah.
And one of the things that we love to do is get away to the mountains because we live at the beach practically.
Right.
Right? We live on a lake and we have a pool and 10 minutes from the ocean. So when we get away, we want to get away to the mountains,
Right.
So
Grass
we're
is always greener.
the grass is always greener, right? But we so enjoy getting away to the mountains, and that becomes a destination unto itself, right? We do like places where we can, do the wine tour, or
Right,
sometimes
right.
we go to Helen. Anyway, lots of good reasons to be somewhere with a short. If you're not going to have a short-term rental that's destination specific, create a destination out of it.
Correct.
As really all that we're just trying to say about that. All right, let's move on before we run totally out of time. This is super important. Are short-term rentals allowed by the governing entities where this potential short-term rental is?
Right. Now, you might find the perfect situation, the perfect property, in the perfect location and everything, but if the association or the city or the county don't allow short-term rentals, then, it's
You can't do it.
yeah, you're wasting your time and money and effort. So just make sure, check with your county and your city, and if the property's in an association, check with the association.
Make sure it's allowed.
Yeah, you're going to find that the associations are going to be the toughest nut to crack, but it's absolutely do your homework, or you're going to be throwing good money after bad.
Now, that's not to say that you absolutely couldn't have a long-term rental as long as that's allowed, or that you couldn't flip it, because of course you can do that most any place. But if you have your eye set on short-term rentals, which is what we're focusing on in our investing career right now, just got to make sure that it works,
Yeah.
because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's move on. Beyond the short-term rental entity problem, let's talk about the difference between having a short-term rental and having a regular rental, because there's a big difference.
Right, right. Obviously with your long-term rentals, you're collecting your rent either biweekly or monthly. And any of the issues, unless you've got a property management company that comes out and deals with a lot of that stuff, it's up to you. It's your responsibility. Now, with short-term rentals, you don't want to be the one doing the property management on this in any way, shape, or form, because there's so many other things that come into play. You know, there's the renting of it, the collecting of the money, the distributing the keys. How do the people get in there? Some people show up at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't want that phone call. So, not to mention all of the things that Clara will talk about a little bit here that go into a short-term rental. It has to be completely and totally stocked with anything and everything that somebody's going to need or want, excluding, obviously, foods, perishables.
Right. So the biggest difference, of course, is that you're furnishing this puppy, right?
Right.
You furnish from top to bottom. So just as though you were living there yourself, everything that you would need, every creature comfort that you would need to stay there yourself, which you can if you're the owner of a short-term rental, you can book that out for yourself. And that's a lovely thing too. But a sofa and a TV and a DVD player or streaming service, Wi-Fi, pillows, throw pillows, dishes, silverware, linens, everything that you would need, you are now going to need to purchase. So if you're thrifty and you do a nice job of it, you can furnish this for $10,000 to $15,000, but this has to go into the budget.
Sure.
Right up front, knowing that this isn't money you're recouping right now. You're recouping it as you rent it out. So these things all need to be in there, and good mattresses, right?
Yep.
Because that's super important when you're staying somewhere.
Mattresses will get them back.
Mattresses, and a bad mattress will keep them away and give you terrible reviews, because no one likes to have a terrible night's sleep.
Yeah, the other thing you want to keep in mind when you're thinking about your budget is a lot of times you'll want to be a little themey with your short-term rentals. Again, if you live in Florida, you want to kind of have it a little themey, a little tropical themey. You don't have to go over the top, but if somebody lives in Michigan or the Midwest somewhere or whatever, they want to see palm trees. They want to see tropical plants.
Sure.
They want to see water, if possible. If you have a pool, great. If you don't, well, then you have to kind of make up for that. If you're buying a cabin in the mountains, you want to be more rustic. You want to have the
cabin
antlers hanging from the wall and that type of thing. Yeah. So just kind of keep that in mind too as you're moving forward.
As you're talking about decorating it and how you're going to furnish it, being a little more boutique about it, so that people, when they look at online at a place, an Airbnb or whatever that they're looking to go stay in, that they go, ooh, that's nice, or oh, that's so cute, right? You might have some sort of response that gets them to choose yours over the multitude of others that are out there that they could choose from.
Sure.
So that's important. And then as we're talking about linens and supplies, there's a couple things to think about. If you are going to have multiple short-term rentals, it makes good sense to always have just one size bed and always just use white linens. Right? So then you don't have to worry about mixing and matching and, this sheet set only goes to this bed and this sheet set only fits that bed. So just some little things that you can do to make your life simpler that just make good sense. And then supplies, having plenty of supplies that you keep locked up.
Right.
Right? So don't leave the entire case of toilet paper under the sink, because it will likely walk away, which is kind of a sad statement, but people are toilet paper hoarders, apparently.
Evidently.
So just have a locking place where you can keep supplies that you don't want to have to run out for toilet paper every other week. So you want to buy in bulk, saves you money, but of course locking them up makes good sense as well, and all of your cleaning supplies. Now, the most important part of a short-term rental, if you're going to own one, is having someone manage it for you.
Manage it and market it.
Manage and
everybody's
market it.
heard of Airbnb, so that's a great place to place your property for marketing purposes and whatnot. But a management company that has a crew that'll come in and clean the house, strip the beds if necessary, wash the laundry, put new stuff back on, all that getting ready for the next
guest.
that next
Yeah.
set of guests, right? And sometimes, they only have a 24-hour period to get
it turned. Yeah.
So,
The quicker they get it turned, the more money in your pocket.
right.
Right? Because you have people moving through.
So it's just a good idea to find a management company that is familiar with this, that specializes maybe in
Specializes, yeah.
short-term rentals.
Absolutely. There's a great company called Evolve. You can find them online. They are awesome because they include everything. Now, they're probably not the only people that do that. Just happens to be the one that we're familiar with. And they literally handle everything from the booking to the reviews to the taking the phone calls when something's not right to they do everything and take their 10%, which is low.
Yeah, you can
in the
expect
industry.
to spend anywhere from 10 to 15% is pretty common in the overall
For the
scheme of things.
managing.
Yeah.
So 10% is a great rate from Evolve. They do everything, they manage everything, and then at the end of the month, they just deposit money into your account, your profits.
How cool is that?
I like it. So, right? We want more of those,
Yeah.
which is why we're very excited to have short-term rentals as a part of our investment strategy as real estate investors. So it is absolutely a great way to round out your portfolio
Yeah.
as investors,
Yeah.
not just be about the flipping.
Right.
And actually our mentor, which we're going to meet on the show in a couple of weeks, says it's now money and later money, right? Now money is the flipping, later money, those are those buy and hold onto.
Yeah.
And that just gives you that growing net worth, which is super important. Anything I missed about short-term rentals you want to add? Anything you think of?
No, I
No?
think we pretty well covered it.
It is absolutely a great option, and we are loving this part of our journey for
Right,
sure.
Right. The only thing that I would say is, as you mentioned, in having a portfolio. I wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. This is a great way of having ongoing income, and owning 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or however many you want is a great idea. But I think you still want to be able to do some flipping and also have some short or some long-term rentals, in your portfolio. It's just a good
Just a good plan.
safety
Just a good
net.
plan. Yeah. And long-term rentals can be a wonderful thing if you're looking to the future for children and grandchildren. What a wonderful gift
Sure.
to be able to pass on to your children or grandchildren in the future. A paid-off rental that makes them money every month, or they could live in it
Sure.
if they wanted. So, great idea. Okay, let us move on to the tool of the week. Now, this week, the tool of the week is something fun and a little on the girly side. So, bear with me a little bit. But it is the guest book. And you're like, oh, Clara, do we really need a guest book? And yes, absolutely, you want a guest book. The guest book lets people who come and stay at your short-term rental, lets them sign in and say how their trip was or how their vacation experience was in your short-term rental.
Yeah.
Now that's valuable information.
And you get some pretty cool stories sometimes too from people.
Yep, cool
So,
stories and good feedback.
Good feedback. Yeah.
Right? Somebody says, several people say, the mattress really kind of wasn't great. Now that's a clue to you that, hey, your mattress isn't great, right? Upgrade your mattress because short-term rentals live and die by the review. If you get a terrible review, that's going to spread and it's going to affect your ability to lease that out or your management company's
right.
ability to lease that out. So that's important. But grabbing those extra stories that for reviews is also hugely valuable.
Yeah.
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 Not everyone is going to go online, even though the company will ask them for reviews. Not everyone will do that, but a lot of people will sit down and
Especially if they've had a great time and
Yeah.
it was everything that they expected and more.
I agree. Yep. And sometimes they'll write lots. I know when we go to short-term rentals, I read them. I read previous people's because it's kind of cool to see who they were and where they were from, and
And some of them date back quite a few years, actually.
yeah, if it's been around for a while, that's true. So get yourself a nice guest book. You can find them on Amazon or find them online. Or if you're a super creative kind of person, you can even create your own. I've seen them as simple as, a notebook binder that they put some pages in, all the way up to people creating their own with the cover being the picture of the short-term rental. It just depends how fancy you want to be, how themey and boutique-y you want to be. Those are all just little things that you can do to make a difference.
Yeah.
Right, in the long run. You want the woman to go, oh my gosh, that was so wonderful. Wasn't this adorable? Wasn't this lovely? So that they'll come back again, right?
Right. Well, that's what you're after. You
Yes.
return guests.
And word of mouth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The more often they come back to it, obviously they like it. The more they're going to talk about it.
Yep.
The more people you get there, and pretty soon you're booked out an entire year in advance.
Yep.
I mean, we see some that are booked out 2 years in advance that you
In a
couldn't
great
get to if
location.
you wanted to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great opportunity.
It is. Our very first experience with a short-term rental was on the Oregon coast
Right.
at Irma's. It's been years and years and years and years, and we still talk about Irma's, the wonderful food, the wonderful hospitality.
Big old Victorian house.
Lovely place.
Yeah.
And we've been multiple times over the years and just fell in love with it. Anyway, get yourself a good guest book. And now, before we run out of time, we've got to talk about business savvy. This is important. We always talk about business savvy because this show is all about keeping more money in your pocket.
Yep.
Right? It's what this show is about. And being business savvy is an important piece of that. So let's talk about what I mean by business savvy. I'm talking about, in this instance, inventory management. Inventory management. That is all of the things that are in your short-term rental. All of those things are inventory. All those things are assets. Your linens, your blankets, your quilts, dishes, silverware, pots and pans, furniture, pillows, rugs, books, DVDs, games, you name it, that is all included. And you might say, why in the world would I need an inventory list of everything in my short-term rental?
So when stuff walks off, you know what's gone.
Yes, oh, yes. And not everything is about things walking off, although sometimes they actually do walk off, but sometimes things break.
Things break,
Right?
sure. They wear out.
They do. And just being aware, if you don't know what was in there or don't remember what was in there, you won't have any way to monitor that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So just think about all of the things that are in there. Have a good running inventory list of everything that's in there, furniture-wise, linens, bedding, those kinds of things. The linens especially are going to rotate, right? Because things wear out. You don't want sheets and towels and things of that nature that are all stained up and gross, right? They need to
Right.
be fresh and clean feeling, so you're on a regular basis going to be swapping those out, right? So keeping track of those things and when they happen, that's an expense, right? That's a
right.
business expense, so you
Yeah.
need to be business
There's
savvy.
companies out there that specialize in this type of thing, that
Sure.
supplies hotels and motels and short-term rentals and timeshare resorts and things like that. So it doesn't have to be extremely expensive, but you want to make sure that you are putting nice quality stuff
Quality.
in the unit, because people vacation in places either nicer or as nice as their home and different than their homes. So they want that experience. So
And they're going to let you know about it if they don't have it.
right.
Right?
But
So,
the inventory list, the checklist is vital. It's very, very important.
Yep. And the things like the dishes and the silverware and those kinds of things, that's just a part of it. That's an important piece of it, so that you can make sure you always have a set of 8. You know, if the house sleeps 8, that you always have a set of 8 dishes for people. But beyond that, the things that make a short-term rental so wonderful, are the books and the games for your family to play, and the DVD players and movies. We've watched movies hunkered down in a cabin somewhere. So all of those things, if they disappear, it's not the end of the world necessarily, but you don't want your supply to dwindle and you to be unaware of it.
Right.
And that's what an inventory list is all about. So it's not so that you can chase somebody down when they stole your fork. Right? Or chase somebody down when they stole the lamp, which, although, you might chase them down if they stole the lamp, but just being aware that things happen. And
your management company will stay on top of this stuff as well. So.
Yes. The cleaning company is usually really great about inventorying stuff as you go. Say, oh,
your bed's gone.
Yeah, your bed's gone. By the way, you're going to need a new bed. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you. And because some of that happens, we've talked to some other owners of short-term rentals who have a camera, not inside the residence, because then that would be illegal, but at the front door. And then they will let you know right up front. By the way, there's a camera at the front door that makes sure that the right people are there for your safety and ours. The right people are there, the right number of people. If you've said, it's going to be 4 people, you don't bring 30, right? You're not having a big old kegger in the short-term rental or something. Some of those kinds of things. And that you're not bringing pets if it's not a pet-friendly place.
Right.
Because if somebody has an allergy and you say, oh, we're pet-friendly, and then you cause them to have a reaction.
Yeah.
All right, he has a thing about being able to bring his dog.
Well,
but
it's not that, but pets can create messes that cost you a lot of money to fix.
Yes. So just be sure that if you are going to allow pets, that you're prepared for some of the things that come along with allowing pets.
You'll have to have a deposit, an extra cleaning deposit.
So lots of things for you to think about when you're considering, but we are out of time. So before you go, I just want to mention really quick, if you want to learn more about flipping by the numbers, you can jump on over to BeFlippingSavvy.com and you can sign up for our next masterclass. So we will see you next week, same time, same place.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Take care.